exploded and died because he was doing better.
Hey guys, I'm just getting set up real quick. I think that'll be good. I'm gonna be making little dot cards. I'm watching some true crime.
Yeah, hi, I'm calling from Somerset Medical Center. We're trying to investigate a toxicity that occurred in a patient.
We had gotten a call at the poison center from a nurse who was
Thanks for
asking
joining,
about the
guys.
dioxin.
All right, I think I'm gonna make a dusk first. Sorry, I got a squeaky chair.
Dioxin is normally used to treat heart failure. It would strengthen the contraction.
And I gotta find
It would
my
make it
mask.
stronger. But as that level gets higher and higher, your heart
Happy
rate starts
birthday,
to go.
Nika. Happy birthday. Thanks for hanging out with me.
And she tells me that she has a patient who hadn't gotten their dose of digoxin in about 2 days, but the level is continuing.
All right, let's make some
And I said,
dusk.
that makes no sense.
That was on the 16th. On the 28th, in the same unit, we had another ditch toxicity. Same unit? Yeah.
Gotta get my mica powders together.
He died.
I said, anything else strange going on? Any patients with low blood
So these are gonna
sugar,
be for the Aurora Palette.
hypoglycemia?
And they're just like little sample dot cards. So like if you don't want to buy the entire palette, you can just get these little guys. I think they're super cute.
We're starting to panic.
I'm gonna put it right on your hands. You now have a police matter.
At Somerset Medical Center, patient safety
All
comes
right,
first.
let's do
I was thinking here, I'm just trying to follow up with the outcome, what you guys are trying to do.
Actually, administration has kind of taken over the investigation.
I'm so unorganized today, so just bear with me.
And they've asked
Your girl's a mess. But that's like every day, so I guess it's nothing new.
So you don't know if they've gone to the authorities yet? I don't know that now. And I probably should more than I should have right now.
And then there was dead silence. We heard nothing.
On Friday, October 3rd, I received a call from the Somerset County prosecutor about a death that occurred at Somerset Medical Center. My on-call detective at the time
Missing one of my
happened to be
colors.
Daniel Baldwin,
I'll have to get up and find
and
that
was
one, right?
new into the office and new into our unit.
I felt a little bit of pressure being the new guy. I wanted to do a good job and show that I deserve to be there.
We weren't exactly invited into a meeting, we were ordered into a meeting.
I felt tension in the air. I realized that I was sitting in the presence of high-ranking members of the Somerset Medical Center.
The administrators, along with their legal team, had been looking into the deaths of several patients.
Let me know if you guys can hear the TV. I can turn it up louder if you need it.
Mary Lynn, a risk manager, turned out to be our point of contact with the hospital with regards to this case.
Somerset Medical Center has
I gotta find another color.
issues surrounding incidents where patients at that facility experienced abnormal laboratory findings. The first two incidents were low glucose levels. The following two were elevated digoxin levels.
I'll have to give you guys a tour of my mica wall. I just put up new shelves and I'm pretty obsessed with it.
We requested also the internal investigation that they conducted. The following day, after receiving the internal investigation from Mary Lynn, I was expecting to receive a binder of information.
It was a document written by an attorney, and it was very sparse. They did not uncover
Here
any
we go.
suspicious activity. They did mention that
I'm gonna move you guys in a little closer. Sorry, it's gonna be jiggly.
But did not identify acts of foul play or anything of that.
There we go.
background check, I came up with 2 arrests, drunken driving in the 1980s, and criminal trespass. I reached out to Palmer Police to try to get some additional background information. As I was on the phone, I can hear the clerk in the background rummaging through what sounded like filing cabinets. And apparently attached to the report, there was a stick-em note. And that little stick-em note indicated that a few months earlier, Pennsylvania State Police had requested basically the same information I was seeking.
Hey, Caitlin. This one is Catching a Killer Nurse, I think it's called.
There was a Pennsylvania State Police.
Something about a killer nurse. It's on Netflix. I tried to find a new Bigfoot show to watch, but the struggle is real. That didn't
He
happen.
informed me that he was conducting an investigation on Charles Cullen with regards to stockpiling medications up at St. Luke's Hospital.
In our line of work, you come to learn that things happen for a reason. Had that not been attached to the file, that this case would not have exploded the way
This
it
one
did.
is Dusk. And I love it.
If in fact Cullen was involved, he still had access to the patients. We were up against the clock. As Cullen became a focal point of our case,
This is watercolor paint that I'm making right now for my Aurora Palette that I'm about to release. It's all like the colors that are in the Aurora Borealis. And this color is called Dusk. So it's supposed to be like that kind of twilight sky with a little bit of stars and there's sparkles and all sorts of good stuff.
They did not appear surprised that we were knocking on their door, talking about him.
If you ever see me with a discolored thumb, this is why. Always. Always got paint on me somewhere.
After my mother's death, I did go with it very well.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the love. Caitlin, I think I made you a mod, but I can't remember because it was a long time ago. So if you're seeing that, then I probably did. I don't know. It was a long ass time ago. Yeah, I could use a bigger razor, but I got like these. So I've tried a lot of different things, and the only thing that actually works is a razor. And I got like this giant pack of them, like bulk order size, so I'm just trying to use what I got. But yeah, a bigger one would definitely help.
June of '87, I graduated my nursing school.
And then this part is called mulling. So you're kind of grinding down the paint pigment together, so it kind of like blends together with the binder also. All paints are basically the same. It's just whatever binder or base medium that you mix it into, that's what makes it whatever paint it is. So like if you mix it with oil, it would be an oil paint. If you mix it with acrylic, it'll be acrylic paint. So
And
kind of cool.
Charlie saw me. And he said, "Are you all right?" And I started to go down. He got me into a room, sat me in one of the chairs, and he said, "What is going on?"
Thank you.
So I explained to him what was really going on with me. I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy while I was working at Somerset. It would literally feel like my heart was going to jump out of my chest. The medications weren't helping. And that disease can be fatal.
So anyone who knows me in real life probably knows that my before life
prognosis
was working in
wasn't
hospitals.
good. I
So
don't know
when this
really
lady's
how
talking
much
about
time
she got
I was going
diagnosed
to
with
have
heart
to
problems
go.
while she was working at a hospital, I'm just like,
But I
same,
didn't want anyone to
same
know
lady.
that I was
I
that
feel your
sick.
pain.
I was worried about
If you know, you know.
not being able to pay my bills, not being able to have insurance. And the only way that we were able to have insurance was through our jobs. I trusted Charlie with that secret, even though if it got out,
This
it could cost
is
me
a
everything.
true crime documentary. It's called Catching a Killer
He said, "We
Nurse,
need to
I
get you
believe.
into the
It's on
ER." And I'm
Netflix.
like, I can't. I have 3 patients tonight. I absolutely cannot.
Right.
So
I think this is
stay
good.
here.
I'm going to move you guys one more time.
When he came back,
Get a better view.
he opened his hand and it was
Hopefully.
frozen. And
All
I
right.
took it. I never really thought about where he got the medication. That night, he not only took care of my patients, he also documented for me. He never told anyone. And that was not the only time that he took care of me.
My tray isn't very level, but oh well.
After talking to Trooper Egan, it was learned that Cullen had worked at several other hospitals, so Tim and I began putting together a timeline of Charles Cullen's career.
So I also don't try to be
I was able
perfect.
get
I don't
Charles
like to
Cullen's
like
resume to
promote
backtrack
perfection,
every
you know,
facility
because
that
nothing is
he had
perfect
worked at.
ever.
9
So
hospitals and
these little
one
dot
nursing
cards,
home.
you can see like dusk isn't in the right spot.
We interviewed people
Excuse me.
associated with
And
Charles Cullen. We
yeah,
found
I don't know.
that
They're
he
not perfect,
had
and I kind of
been
like it
known
like
to
that.
abuse his family
I think they're
pets, his
adorable.
dogs,
I
and
hope you
actually
guys
in
think
one
they're
case,
adorable
he may
too.
have poisoned one animal that was a family pet. They
Maybe a
also
little
referred
higher.
to an incident at Warren Hospital.
There we go.
While the details were minimal,
Yeah, it is. It's about the male nurse that was killing
it was
patients.
through that tip
Terrifying.
we went to the Warren County Prosecutor's Office and learned about their case.
I could totally see how that happens though, because like when I worked in hospitals, there's like med carts, right? And you got to put in your like your own PIN to get in them and like charge your patient and stuff. But the nurses on this one floor, they were so bad. They would leave the room and like not even lock the cart.
And I'm the
And
niece of Helen Dean,
that's like a
and the
huge
cousin of Larry Dean.
like safety
She
concern.
was like
Like, you gotta lock up your
mother
meds,
to
people.
me.
What the hell? I don't know. The
And
stories I
Larry
could tell you
and I
guys from being
were
in
like
healthcare
brother
is
and
terrifying,
sister.
and I probably shouldn't talk about it.
This is Larry's library, this room. It has his books,
Thank
his
you.
pipes.
These are the colors from the Aurora palette. So like every week,
Larry was very close with his
I am
mother.
highlighting one of the
She
colors out of the
was
palette.
very
So this
never
week is
married.
Solar Flare.
His mother was
I
everything.
did
His
Dusk
mother was
last
his
week. I
world.
think next week is Ultraviolet.
Helen went to
And then I'll
the
just keep
hospital for
releasing like
procedure.
content about each
And
color until the release date.
Prior to being
And these little guys are coming
discharged,
out before the
she
actual like
survived.
full palette.
They were going to send her to the
So these will be
Coventry
July
Center
3rd,
for
and then like the actual
rehabilitation
full palette will
so
be
that
on my
she could
birthday,
go
July
home.
10th. So I thought that would be fun.
Larry
Now I have to
was
move
there
these
visiting
somehow
his
and
mother,
fill the other
and
hands.
this
Wish me
fellow
luck.
came in, a male nurse.
I have a
and
little
asked
drying
him
rack
to
up
leave
over
the
here.
room.
So.
The male nurse
Alright, let me
pulled the
grab my
curtain
other one.
around her.
these are the half pans. I'll just go ahead and
And
top
Larry's
these some
out
more.
at the nurse's station and he heard her holler, ouch. He went into the room. The male nurse came running out and he said to his mother, what happened? She said, he stuck me with a needle. Larry always carried a Swiss Army knife, and he pulled out the knife with the magnifying glass and looked, and sure enough, there was a prick mark on her interior right thigh. Later in the afternoon, they took her by ambulance to the transport, and Larry stopped at home on the way to pick up her slippers. And he no sooner got in the door and the phone rang. And it was the Coventry Center telling him that his mother had died within like 5 minutes upon arrival. My cousin that night went to the prosecutor's office to report
Yeah, it was
that his
yikes.
mother was murdered. And Larry knew in his heart and his soul
I used to work
that this man
in surgery,
who was in her room,
and I've
who
had to
she
leave
identified
hospitals
before she
because
died
it just wasn't
as the man giving
good,
her
like a good situation, and I was like, I can't be a part of this. Scary.
So they did toxicology
No.
testing. They tested for every single drug you could imagine, except one, digoxin.
The Warren investigation was closed. They did have suspicion, but they did not have the evidence to prove a criminal case. Cullen was allowed to move
So
on.
for these paints, I don't know if I really tell you guys this enough, but I have to fill these like, I think I do like 4 times. So, so like you don't make it and fill it and then they're done. Like you have to make it, fill it, let it dry, make it, fill it, let it dry, make it, fill it, let it dry for like 4 or 5 times. So this should be the final pour on these guys. It just kind of depends how they dry. And all mica dries differently. So it just depends. Usually these don't shrink too much though, so I'm hoping this will be the last one. Aren't they so cute though? And then I clean them up and then I put the names on them and all that fun stuff. Make the listings, do their little product photo shoot, all sorts of fun stuff.
I knew that if I was placed in these situations that I would feel
Caitlin, you thought it was only twice? No, bro. Yeah, it's like at least 4 times. That's why it takes so long for me to get new palettes out. Honestly, it just is it just takes time.
what I was doing.
A labor of love. Thank you. One of the colors in this set is going to be glow in the dark.
Most of us started our
too.
lives in hospitals.
So
Most
I'm
of us
super
worked
excited
our
for this
lives in
palette. I think it's
hospitals,
going to be
and we'll
awesome.
visit them throughout.
And I
They're
hope you
universal.
guys are excited too.
But those who staff the hospitals, for the most part, especially the nurses, they really are treated as interchangeable parts.
Yeah, they are.
Staffing agencies often are filling slots. People are filling in all the time. People come and go, and being transient is somewhat expected.
That is
The
very
institution
true.
of private for-profit healthcare, the business of healthcare, is one that Charlie Cullen was perfectly suited for. He become invisible, and he was, to many, a man without a face.
The idea that a nurse might be harming or killing patients was very disturbing. But even
Hey
though
friend,
Cullen's
I'm so
background
happy you
painted
could
a dark
make
picture,
it. How have you
the
been?
Aurora prosecutor
How
who
is
now signed an
life?
arrest
How are
warrant based on
things?
hearsay and rumors.
It was a public safety
Just
risk at this
topping
point.
off some pizza.
It was very concerning for us that he was still working
Sorry, I'm all
at
like
some
breathing in
facility
this
while
probably.
they
You're
were
probably hearing me
continuing
going.
to gather enough information to make an arrest.
So if that's the case, I'm
And
sorry.
noticing that our lab results were completely skewed.
Caitlin, are you still in here?
And
You
I could
guys,
hear other
big
nurses
exciting
also
news.
calling
Me and
saying,
Caitlin,
"Yes,
Coyote
my blood
Creek
sugar
Glass, are
is
gonna hang out in
22
real
again
life.
this morning."
How exciting is that? It's this weekend. We're gonna be in
We
Chicago.
thought that there was something wrong with the lab.
I'm super excited.
And
Okay, you're still
if we weren't sure about something, we would
It's
go
gonna
straight
be
to Charlie
dope.
and ask him. He knew medications like I have never seen. I think he had a passion for understanding the way that medications worked.
So I have this story about working in sterile processing, and I'm pretty sure one of the people that I worked with was like possibly a serial killer or like had the potential to be a serial killer. He's very creepy. I won't say his name, but I may or may not have gotten him fired because, so let me explain. He would like hit on this girl that we worked with, but not, it wasn't reciprocated, right? He would hit on her and he would make her really uncomfortable, but she was too like polite to say anything, but I wasn't, so I would make jokes about like how this guy probably has like rope and duct tape in his trunk, like ready to abduct this lady after work sometime. Totally joking, like obviously I had never seen the inside of his car or anything like that. But I think that finally like flipped the switch in her head, like this guy is kind of really actually creepy and he might actually seriously abduct me and he makes me uncomfortable, and then they fired him. So sorry to that person, not trying to get anybody fired ever, but moral of the story, don't be a fucking creep.
When we went back to Warren
Don't
Hospital to see
make
if there
people
were any
uncomfortable
records available,
or unsafe.
we delved deeper
But yeah,
into
that's one of my
documents
stories from
that had
sterile
been destroyed.
processing.
It was a dead end.
Another story is how hazmat had to come and save us. Let's just do a story time about this. Okay. So I used to work second shift at a hospital, like a big hospital in the city that I live in. And it was a 24-hour, obviously, department. So anyway, I'm in second shift, so that's like 3 to 11:30 p.m.
We needed outside.
And we had these little monitors in the department to like monitor how much gas, like lethal gas, was being admitted from one of these sterilizers that we used. It was an ethylene oxide sterilizer, which, fun fact, they use to like peel tomatoes. For like canned tomatoes, they use ethylene oxide, and in large doses it is toxic, so BT dubs. But anyway, so there was this gas sterilizer machine, and it was leaking, and I would keep an eye on the monitors, obviously, because I'm not trying to die. And I was in decontamination, where all of like the icky things come down from surgery, and I'm watching this fucking monitor, and it's starting to alarm. So I called to the other side of the department, the clean side, and my friend was the manager, and I was like, yo bro, like are you watching this, or do you see what's going on? And she's like, oh no, it's fine, it's nothing. So she told me to quit trying to get out of work and get back to work. So basically I was like, fine, whatever, I'm just gonna ignore this because clearly nobody cares. And then all of a sudden it for real alarmed, like alarmed, and we had to evacuate the department. We had to walk ourselves down to the emergency room, but that was before we waited like a few hours in this little waiting area at the hospital for hazmat to go through the whole department with their little monitors and their suits. And oh my god, dude, it was a thing. So finally they're like, hey, you have to go to the emergency room, all of you guys, you have to get checked out to make sure like there's no like exposure or whatever. So we walk down to the emergency room. They have us waiting in this, like in the triage area where you first come in and you check in, you know, that first person you see. We're just hanging out in that little area, like, you know, MBD, listening to the ambulance people call in. And finally they're like, yo, you guys need to go shower and you can't keep the clothes that you're wearing. So they bring us up to this floor that had been closed. Like not being used, right? I think it was like the 8th floor or something. And they made us get in these creepy showers. We had to strip naked, shower ourselves down. We weren't allowed to put our underwear or bras back on. We had to put them in like these baggies, and the hazmat people were going to take them with us. All the while, hazmat and firefighters are standing outside in the hallway waiting for us to shower and come out like bare titties and everything. So that all happened. We get done, we come out all showered, and then they were like, oh, never mind, you're fine, you can put all your stuff back on and we're just gonna leave like nothing happened. So we just went back to work like nothing happened. That was that was an interesting night. And then, so what actually ended up happening was there was like this storage cabinet for the ethylene oxide gas, and it's supposed to exhaust to the outside, and it was not exhausting to the outside, so it was just like chilling in the cabinet, and tripped the alarm. So that's how that happened. This is just one of many times. One time, Decontam flooded. I wasn't there for that though, thank God.
So Danny went out to meet the
So like just think of all the disgusting stuff that's on the floor floating out into a hallway. That's basically what happened when Decontam flooded.
Little sticking note with the Pennsylvania State Police.
Right. They probably did want a free show, Caitlin. It was so awkward. But at that point, we kind of didn't care because we thought we were going to die anyway. Like, did we just get exposed to, like, deadly fumes? And then they drug tested all of us. The next day, they're like, oh, we got to drug test you to make sure it wasn't any of your fault. Like, really? How is any of that any of our faults? Ugh, don't ever work in a hospital, guys. I mean, I'm sure there's good ones out there, but probably not.
We're looking into the mortality rate.
All right, I gotta move these. I gotta wash that, and then I gotta make another color. So just hang out for a second, and I'll BRB. Oh, but look at this. Hang on, before I get rid of this. Look at how pretty that is, and it changes color, kinda. Very nice. Okay, let me put you back up here, and then I'll be right back. Please do not fall on my pants. Okay.
In a small ICU at St. Luke's Hospital
Go to my
in Pennsylvania. We had a really nice, tight group of people that worked well together. He was quirky, had his oddities, but, you know, ICU nurses are kind of weird. I was there the night that he was taken out and was allowed to resign, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and everything was very hush-hush. A day or so later, I was calling one of my coworkers saying, do you have any idea what is going on here? And they told me that there were more than 50 vials of medications that were found discarded in the needle box. Many of them were unused, but some were used. So I began to think about the whole thing. Prior to him being let out of there, there was a time, twice within a week, almost exactly a week, I had had patients who were very stable and they coded. It didn't make any sense to me. So I compiled a list of all the people who had expired during that time. And then I went back to gather the dates, the times, the names, and so forth. Put all that together. There were 67 deaths. I thought it was statistically reasonable for Charlie to have been on duty for a quarter of them, so it came out to around 17. I saw 40. More than twice the number that would even statistically make sense.
And which color am I gonna make next?
I
I'm gonna
believe
do
that there
this
were two
green
people in
next,
particular
but I gotta
in
move
mind that
this
he targeted.
real
People
quick.
that I had a real fondness for. One of them's name was Sam.
I gotta bring these little guys.
And Sam was a huge man. His hands were
How
like
cute,
baseball.
right?
He was enormous.
I'm like so in love with these.
When he came to our unit, he was completely locked
All right.
in. He didn't open his eyes. He didn't talk. He didn't respond in any way.
Caitlin, they really wanted to blame someone, right? Anyone but themselves.
Taking care of Sam, all of a sudden, I was just, I thought, what in the world?
That's like the worst thing, right? Like, how are you gonna blame someone else for a problem you caused yourself?
It was this low rumbling voice and this big, big man. And it took us hours to realize that he was very slowly saying, I love you. And he was responding whenever I was on duty that way.
What did I miss with this show? Oh, okay.
And
Someone catch
a
me up.
matter of days after that, he started singing You Are My Sunshine when I'd be in the room. So, dear sweet man. And he coded when Charlie was on. I reached out to my manager, to my director, and said, I am now sure that he was killing people. And they all said, nope. We're sure he wasn't.
Another thing that I need to quit talking about this, but
And said,
another
"We've already
thing that was fucked up.
investigated that, and we found it out."
I should have put an 18 plus on this live, but anyway, I knew someone who was a nurse, and she would sometimes save up medication to like make her patients sleep through the night. Like she, that's like serial killer shit. But anyway, so like if she had a problem patient and they were sleeping fine through the day, she would like chart that she dosed them the right, dose while they were sleeping, but she didn't, and then she would give them like 2 doses at night, not like overdose them or hurt them, but I mean potentially. And she was probably a serial killer now that I think about it. Dude, you guys, I'm telling you, the shit that I've seen in hospitals, like, I didn't do sterile processing this long, maybe 6 years, but I had worked in hospitals for years before that. So probably total at least like 15 years working in a hospital. And yes, I'm that old. It's just horrifying, some of the stuff you see. Like, I care too much about people to be able to like sit there and watch people be put in these like awful situations. So I was just like, I'm out, I'm done, I can't do this anymore.
And announced that.
But anyway, back to paint making, because that's what I do now.
And that the state police had found that Charlie had not
Get my mask back on. So protective stuff for paint making, you need a mask so you don't inhale the mica powder. You don't want that all up in your lungs. It's not good for you long term. And that's kind of it. You could wear gloves, but I feel like like you're not ingesting the paint, and it's not like a topical thing. Like you're not putting it on your body. It's just something that you're like dipping a paintbrush into water, onto paper. So I don't wear gloves. I wash my things every time. So yeah, that's kind of how we do it. I forgot what I was doing. All right.
St. Luke's
These
is
guys, I gotta find my little
US
recipe
top
card.
100 rated hospital, an enormous ecosystem of healthcare
some
that was
other
still
stuff.
standing. They had a bond rating out for a whole new campus at the time. They just wanted him out of there
All right,
as quietly as possible. Whether by
and you. Okay, we're good.
by intention.
Good to go. Let me move you guys back up here. We can
That
see the
was
paint
most likely to
making.
minimize, danger of lawsuit. One that protected the
Is that good?
institution at the cost of protecting
Sorry.
patients.
All right.
The pattern we were seeing with the cases involving Cullen, the one in Pennsylvania, the one in Warren with the Helen Dean incident, the investigation stopped due to lack of evidence. The hospital administrators themselves.
You don't want to end up at
suspected
your
that
hospital
Cullen
with the
was up to
case
no
of the
good.
purple lung. Right? Ma'am, why are your lungs rainbow colored?
These types of incidents follow Cullen in almost every place he worked.
Like everything in this like studio area is covered in mica powder. It's just like, it's so fine and it just flies like everywhere. That's okay.
One of the things that
Pretty.
I really wanted to focus in on and look at was the Pixis transaction. The Pixis machine is really a computerized medication dispensing machine.
Yeah, see, this is the thing I was talking about, the Pixis
I
machine.
wanted to see what type of medications Charles Cullen was withdrawing.
Can you guys hear that?
During my first meeting with Mary Lund back in early October, she informed me that the Pixis only held information up to 30 days.
Does that make
seems
sense?
very odd to us.
All right, let me get you closer.
I actually contacted the manufacturer in California.
Here we go.
The representative was shocked. They said all data needed was retrievable from the unit. We were being played by the hospital administrators. It was flatly criminal what they were doing.
I immediately went over to Mary Lund's office.
So this color is called Polar Lights.
Did not give us this information.
It's a darker version of Northern Lights, which will also be in this palette.
Do a forensic analysis. Immediately after our conversation, I picked up the phone, started making some phone calls, and surprisingly, she was able to exchange information for me.
Thanks for the follow, Deb. Appreciate
It
you.
was a crucial piece of evidence that we were able to put certain medications
Super appreciate
in the
you.
possession of Charles Cullen at the time that particular incidents were occurring with the patients on the unit.
Also, I make my own binder. I don't know if I ever told you guys that.
Ways away from
I think I have a video on
actually
it,
charging Cullen.
but I do
So
because I love it.
we needed to get him away from
And that's what this
patients.
is, that little goopy stuff.
With the information we had gathered in his background, we came
I
up
love
with
when the binder and the mica finally mix,
one of his
and
job
like you can see the color
applications.
changing in it. It's just like,
We used that
so
as
good.
the guys for Somerset Medical Center to basically fire him.
He was led out of the building by security. I was absolutely floored, shocked. Why would you get rid of him? Why would they fire such a good nurse? And I went into production mode. some time. I was very concerned about him. He seemed depressed. I told him that I would give him a reference and that we would be okay.
Oh, it's so scary how, like, sociopathic
Now that
people
Cullen
can
was
be.
removed from the hospital, we felt it was a good time to speak with his coworker to see if anybody may have witnessed him doing something that was strange.
There were detectives at work and they
Sorry,
were
keep moving,
asking
guys.
a whole bunch of questions. We start running things in our own minds, all of us. If Charlie could get fired, then any of us could get fired.
We wanted to move the process along as fast as we could, but there was a request from the hospital that went through my upper chain of command that a hospital administrative representative would be present. As it turned out, Mary Lund was the representative who sat in, and the nurses feared, truthfully cooperated in front of their boss. We're getting nowhere. We had gone through pretty much the entire staff, and the one name that kept popping up was Amy Lockwood.
Are my paints more on the
Last to be
thinner
interviewed.
side or more on the thicker side? So technically it just depends how much water you put on it to activate it.
When I went in
So the less
to
water you
background,
use, the thicker the
Mary
paint will
Lund,
be.
who
But I would
was the
say
manager, went in with
they're
me.
pretty thick.
She had
As far as
coached me
opacity, they're not
and
very
said,
opaque.
Everything's gonna be fine.
But yeah, if
I
you
just told
want
him
like a
right
thin
that
wash, you could put
absolutely,
lots of
like,
water
this
on the
is all
top and
just
activate
bullshit.
it and then
I
mix it
think I said
together
bullshit
and
a
even
lot.
water it down more like in a palette or like a dish.
And then for some reason,
Or if you want more of a saturated color, you would just
Mary
use a
Lund
little bit
had
of
to
water and then really load up the brush and it would act more like an
I was
acrylic.
getting good vibes from Amy. I actually liked the fact that she was defending her friend. So I felt that she would be worth the risk of me showing her and revealing to her some of the information that I had.
he pushed a piece of paper across the desk. It was Charlie's Pixis printouts.
And she just shook her head like, wow. It was like it was a totally different person now. It was like she let her guard down and she said, wow. It was just like she started thinking in her head, like, you know, what I'm telling her could possibly be truthful.
It was so obvious that there was something sinister in that paperwork. I just blanked out.
How creepy would that be? Like all of a sudden this coworker that you were such good friends with, you realize is like murdering people.
My vision came in.
Scary. Oops,
I
sorry.
remember being at the nurse's station. I saw a patient go into VTAC. I yelled out code blue. I got to the room and Charlie was already with this patient.
Alright, I'm gonna move you guys again.
And Charlie was injecting the patient. I asked Charlie, what medication are you giving? And he said lidocaine. And I thought that was odd. It was a moment, a brief moment.
Lidocaine
where I
is
thought,
like a
why
topical
is he
pain
giving lidocaine?
reliever. So
As
that
we're
makes
in the
no
middle of the
sense.
code, doing CPR, continuing with lidocaine, the resident arrives. I give him, as the code leader, this is the progress of our code blue. And he said, who gave this patient lidocaine? I said, I did. I gave lidocaine. I'm the code leader. I ordered lidocaine. He said, she's allergic to lidocaine.
Oh my god, lady. God.
So I
In
walked in on
Ireland, he was
murderings.
putting sewage into his
And I
coworkers'
didn't-
morning tea.
I
People are
didn't see it.
crazy.
And I didn't think about
That
it.
is terrifying. Like, you literally just never know.
After I
And that
had
is honestly
that
terrifying.
revelation, I watched Danny and I watched for his response. And Danny mouthed the words, "Will you help me?"
You help me? No, my answer would be no. You're on your own, bro. Oh, you're murdering people and
I
shit.
don't remember driving home that day. I just remember when I got home, I called Donna.
It felt like a tidal wave.
I'm gonna put these up and then I'm gonna tap the other little guys.
For the patients, the families. The fact that I trusted him. I really trusted him.
Right, that's the blue we just did. We're gonna move on to the green.
A day or so after the interview with Amy Laughlin, we decided to travel to her home. If we can convince Amy to work with us, we'd have someone on the inside.
When they arrived at my house, Tim and Danny were looking at all of this paperwork that they had as a completely different language. They didn't speak the language. And so they asked me what I saw on the Pixis printouts. And I saw multiple cancellations. Those cancellations included deadly medications. So he would go in under a patient's name. He would push digoxin. The drawer would pop open and he would take some medicine. Then he would cancel that particular interaction.
Which is so dumb because it's still gonna be in the memory. Like, hello.
As we are getting into all of those conversations, my phone rings. And it's the risk manager, Mary Lund. I was shocked and a little suspicious. Why is she calling me at home? And then she really started questioning me about had I spoken to the detectives after our meeting. She then also advised me that it would be a good idea to not talk to them unless there was a representative from the hospital with me, trying to scare me away from talking to the detectives.
Isn't that so screwed up? Instead of trying to like help the
While I'm
patients,
talking
families
to them on
like
the phone,
find out
Danny
what
and Tim
happened,
are
they're just gonna
trying to
try
listen
and
in on this
cover their own
conversation.
asses. Makes sense though. It's hospitals for you.
I had a lot to lose. A career, a family. I had cardiomyopathy. I was worried about being disabled, about not being able to have insurance. I needed to talk to my daughter. It had to be a family decision. So when she came home from school, we sat down.
Perfect little blabs of murder.
And I told her.
I don't know where in the
that
country this was
Molly
at.
was
I'll have to
working with
look.
someone that very possibly
a second.
could be hurting people, possibly killing people, and that I have an opportunity to perhaps prevent him from hurting anyone else. She said, if we have the opportunity to maybe stop a killer, of course we have to stop him. Of course we have to do this. And an 11-year-old had more moral aptitude than someone who is responsible for risk management.
Exactly. the exact reason I left healthcare.
Amy agreed
It's
to
just a
allow us
mess.
to record our conversation with Charles Cullen.
One of the essential roles for me in the investigation was to keep that relationship with Charlie.
We had a mass murderer on the loose, and we had to make sure, one, he wasn't gonna take off.
What's even more stupid with this dude, the nurse who's a killer, is like, to be a nurse, you are licensed, right? And you have to go through, like,
We knew that
registering
he
your
was
fingerprints
looking
with the
for a job.
FBI and, like, all
We
sorts
knew
of,
that
like,
emotionally he was
I don't know, like,
becoming more
security
depressed.
things. So it's like, bro, you're on file. Like, you're not gonna, it's like, you're not gonna get away with this. What are you thinking?
It was hard when I would hear his voice. I would feel like
For-profit healthcare is
I
great. For real.
was
So another screwed up thing about
betraying him.
hospitals is a lot of them are
But I
not
just
for
knew
profit,
it
like
in
they're a
my bones.
non-profit.
He was going to continue to kill.
But that doesn't mean that they're not allowed to
And
make a
he
profit.
was
They're
just
just not allowed to make more than their allotted profit. So they're very profit driven. And it's more like customer service than like taking care of people, like healthcare. I don't know. It's so screwed up. Don't get me
There
started.
was fear of being
That hospital I worked at though was not in a good neighborhood. And a lot of wild things happen there. We would always be on lockdown for like people walking in the emergency room with gunshot wounds and stuff, or like people's gas and stuff being stolen out of their gas tanks while they're at work, or their catalytic converters were getting chopped off their cars while they're at work. It was a mess.
Amy came to our office and gave us advice on.
I had a homeless dude try and jump out in front of my car on the way to work early in the morning one time. It was just like,
As I kept going there,
the
I
shit
really
was just
felt like I was
wild.
part of the team. And I realized maybe I was a small voice, but what I had was a language none of them could speak. I also asked them, where's the charts from Cerner?
And Danny and I kind of looked at each other and basically said, who is Cerner? And she said, not who's Cerner, what's Cerner?
I said, that's all of the records of the patients. Without the Cerner printouts, it was going to be so hard to put that syringe in his hand. And when I went back to work, I started printing out the patient records so that I could
love
look
this
at them.
lady.
So apparently when nobody was watching her, she would go to the computer and print out reams of information about patients, knowing that she could have been charged
Yeah,
by
that's
the
illegal.
institution. That took a tremendous amount of fortitude.
If you're not a part
Putting
of the
myself
treatment
under
of a
that kind
patient,
of
you're
stress.
not allowed
I
to
was
access
already concerned
their
about my health.
healthcare information. 'Tis illegal.
And
Big
yet,
illegal.
I knew that even if I was risking my life, I knew I had to help them.
We used all of these different pieces of information to cross-reference each other. There was a paper trail going back to Cullen.
If we could prove one death, we got him.
We needed a body. We needed to obtain the Johnson from the tissue. We felt that Reverend Gall was probably our strongest case, despite of the fact that he had died several months prior.
Never in a million years would I have thought he would walk in my door and basically say, your brother was killed.
Ooh.
The moment I was angry, because I this is impossible. This can't, this can't happen. He said that they would probably want to exhume the body. Would I give my consent? That's a lot for any family to have to deal with. And go through a whole reburial again at the cemetery. You almost
I wondered if
say,
you'd have to pay for that, like, all over again. Like, who pays for this? To exhume a body and then, like, put it back in the ground. Like, that's not something cheap. It's crazy.
I will give you my consent.
I remember her telling me that.
Worth it. I mean, if it's
spent
gonna
his whole life helping people, and now even
charge
in death,
somebody, but
he
still
has the
expensive.
opportunity to help people as well. After the exhumation, Reverend Gall's remains were transported to the State Regional Medical Examiner's office in anticipation of a autopsy.
Because of the amount of digoxin that was found in Reverend Gall's body, that gave us enough to change the cause and manner of death from a natural death that the hospital reported to homicide. But we were lacking a couple pieces that a jury sometimes would like to see. Something physical, that syringe or that IV bag that was contaminated. It's not always that easy.
Dude, that would be out in the garbage the same day that it happened. Like, that would be impossible to find.
Charlie called me to tell me he was so excited.
And then it gets
that
burnt because it's
he got
biohazard.
the job. So I called Tim to let him know.
If he took a job, the likelihood of Cullen killing more people is very, very strong. We were out of time.
Without a confession, he was going to continue to murder. He was going to continue to kill.
Murder.
So they asked me if I would meet with him and wear a wire.
Hey, Amy, this is Charlie. Just returning the call. Friday is possible. I don't know what time you were thinking of, but sure. Yeah, let's get together.
Alright guys, I think I'm done for the day. My hand is officially numb. But thank you for hanging out with me while I make these. And I think I'll probably finish them tomorrow. Maybe I'll go live again. Love you guys! I hope you all have a great day.